storing your empty bottle in the garbage?
Don't you know plastics go in the blue container?
Mayor Frank Jackson and the City of Cleveland are committed to keeping your neighborhood clean and green through the use of the city-issued trash and recycling carts. It's safe, convenient, and mandatory. For more information, contact the Cleveland Division of Waste Collection at 216-664-3717.
How did you get to be so smart?
I had a good teacher.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Zone. I'm fortunate to serve on Cleveland City Council, more blessed to represent this neighborhood. You are in Sagrada Familia Church. This is the first, I hear a noise coming over there. Oh, you're live? Okay, so we'll have tolerance for that. You are sitting in Sagrada Familia Church. This is the very first Catholic church that was built in the city of Cleveland since World War II. I think it's a real testament to the Hispanic community and how vibrant that community is in our city. So before we start, I would like to ask the pastor of this parish, Father Rob, to come on up and open us up with a blessing. Father Rob?
Thank you. Good evening. Muy buenas tardes a todos. I was very pleased that we were asked to use our church as a sounding board for this particular situation. We are not just a Hispanic Latino community. We also have many other nationalities represented here. We're open to anybody, and our situation here in the city gives us, I think, a very special place also. And with me tonight also is Pastor Max Rodas, who is going to offer a prayer when I'm done too. He's from the Nazareno Church, and he works with the Nueva Luz Resource Center. And I'm going to do something in English, and Max is going to do something in Spanish. And I want to just make a little announcement for those that speak Spanish. Los que hablan español, más después, cuando ustedes quieren poner algo aquí en el micrófono, Max y yo vamos a ayudar en la traducción de lo que ustedes dicen. Entonces, si sienten más cómodo en español, aquí estamos para apoyar. God, we pray for your presence among us this night. Keep us peaceful but honest. Keep us critical but just. We ask you that what we say tonight will be heard with open ears and open hearts. We ask you to protect our police. Help them also to be compassionate and wise. Bring an end to violence among us in all of its forms. And let the angel's message at the birth of Jesus be heard. Peace on earth to men and women of goodwill. Amen. Y quiero presentar al Pastor Max Rodas.
When Jesus was asked how to pray, he gave the following prayer, and I will say it in Spanish. Padre nuestro que estás en los cielos, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga tu reino, hágase tu voluntad. En la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy el pan de este día y perdona nuestras deudas, como nosotros perdonamos a nuestros deudores. Y no nos dejes caer en la tentación, sino que líbranos del mal. Padre Santo, necesitamos que tu reino venga y que venga a nosotros hoy. Our Father, we need for your kingdom to come and for this kingdom to come to us today. Un reino de justicia, de amor y de igualdad. A kingdom of justice, love, and equity. Ayúdanos a ser buenos prójimos, atentos a las necesidades de nuestras hermanas y hermanos. Help us to be good neighbors, attentive to the needs of our sisters and brothers. Libéranos del egoísmo y la auto-obsesión, la cual nos provoca a actuar con resentimiento, odio y violencia. Set us free from our selfishness and our obsessive self-preoccupation, which prompt us to be resentful, hateful, and violent. Llénanos con vuestro amor sacrificial y redentivo y vuélvenos compasivos y amables. Fill us with your sacrificial and redemptive love and transform us into compassionate and kind beings. En tu santo y poderoso nombre sometemos esta plegaria. Amén. It is in your holy and powerful name that we submit this application. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Rob and Father Rob and Pastor Max for the beautiful blessing. If all of you could please stand up, and we're going to begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask the Council President of Cleveland City Council, Kevin Kelly, to come up and share some remarks with us. Kevin?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you all for welcoming me into your community. My name is Kevin Kelly. I am the President of Cleveland City Council. Before I begin, I would like to introduce my colleagues who have come here to join us. I'm going to kind of pass the mic and have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Councilman Tony Brancatelli. I represent Ward 12, which combines both the west side and the east side in parts of Tremont, South Hills, Old Brooklyn, as well as Slavic Village.
Good evening. My name is Phyllis Cleveland. I'm the council person that represents Ward 5, which is East Side, Inner City, Central, Kinsman, North Broadway, Campus District, and Midtown.
Good evening. My name is Terrell Pruitt. I'm a council person representing Ward 1. I represent Lee Harbor, Lee Seville, and Mount Pleasant.
Buenas noches. Me llamo Amy Mitchell. Soy una representativa de la, como dice el 4-6, Ward 6 in Cleveland. Thank you.
Very nice.
Hi, I'm Brian Cummins. I'm the councilman in Ward 14, representing the neighborhoods of parts of Tremont, Clark, Fulton, Stockyard, Cadell, and Brooklyn Center.
Thank you, and we're all very honored to be here tonight. We are here tonight, we are brought together tonight as a result of the release of the Department of Justice findings, which came on the heels of some other events that happened nationally and locally, most notably the event at Cadell Recreation Center, which is all very much on the minds of the people of the city of Cleveland. This has certainly evoked a response from the community, and it would be very easy for us as council members, to jump to conclusions, to reach conclusions based on what we saw. And as tempting as that is, we decided that the first step that we need to do in forming our response to this is to really get out of City Hall, come to the neighborhoods, and listen to what the citizens of the city of Cleveland have to say about this. Really try to hear from people in terms of what are their experiences and what do they believe to be the problems of the community. And ultimately, we're here for one purpose. That purpose is to listen, and that's our goal tonight. But our end game is, how do we use this report, the Department of Justice findings, how do we use that to get better? How do we use that as a tool, as a starting point to saying, maybe we're going to identify some issues and we're going to use that to get better? There's going to be some legal technicalities. There's going to be a consent decree that we're going to enter with the Department of Justice. And when that consent decree is entered into, I would just ask everybody to really wait for that and to pay attention to that document, because that document is really going to be the roadmap of what we are going to do as a City of Cleveland to respond to the Department of Justice's findings. And you have my commitment as the President of Cleveland City Council and of my colleagues that once that consent decree is agreed upon and filed, we will live and breathe that document, and we will work with that document, and we will ensure that every one of the changes, of the improvements that is contained in that document is executed, and that when this is all said and done, we will be better. Relations between our Division of Police and the community will be better when we are all done with this. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank Councilman Zone, who's the chair of our Public Safety Committee, for kind of spearheading this effort and really making the effort to go not just invite people to City Hall, but really get out in the community and listen to what you all just say. So thanks for welcoming us into your community, and again, we're here to listen. So with that, I'll turn this back to Councilman Zone.
Thank you, Councilman. So I do want to introduce, there will be several other our council colleagues who will be joining us during the evening. There are some community meetings going on. We've just been joined by Councilman Joe Simperman, who represents downtown Tremont and the Ohio City neighborhood as well. So tonight is the second in a series of community listening sessions being held around our city. And over the course of the next several months, City Council will be doing its due diligence, as Council President said, reviewing those findings, but more importantly, listening to the community. And as we do that, what we're hoping to hear from you tonight is we're hopeful to hear on looking at how we currently police our city, how we investigate police complaints, but equally important, how the community can work with its leadership and the police department to build a stronger city. We realize that the key ingredient to achieve that success will be trust. And gaining that trust is going to be a comprehensive effort that will not be achieved overnight. This can begin immediately with each positive interaction with not only the police department, but with the leadership of this city. And we know that mutual respect is the mortar that will hold these bricks together. When we're done with these listening tours, the council plans on issuing what we've heard kind of findings from the community, and we will share that document with the Department of Justice. We will share that with Mayor Frank Jackson. We will share that as well with our police chief. And so tonight is really your opportunity to share your comments on the record, and that, again, will serve as the basis of our report. So moving forward, we encourage you to share your views and concerns. We understand and recognize that emotions are running high in our community, but I respectfully ask that you don't make your comments personal. We're here to listen to your constructive ideals and criticism. So I'm asking each and every one of you in the audience tonight to be polite, allow everyone the opportunity to have their say. And we realize that there will be some disagreements, but let's be respectful and hear everyone's view. I'd ask all in the room that there be no outbursts from the audience, and respect those individuals who are testifying here this evening. When you arrived here tonight, we asked you to sign in the back. I want to thank those of you who did. For those of you who didn't, please sign in and record so we know who's here, because that will become part of our final document. In addition, you're all given an agenda. We'd ask, if you don't feel comfortable coming to the microphone and you want to make a comment or a statement, please fill it out. There's a box just before you leave the hall, and you can slip your comment in there. If you want to make it attributable to yourself, that's fine. If you want to leave something anonymous, that is fine as well. So when we begin this process, I'd ask those who are going to make a statement will line up here at this microphone. Before anyone rises, Mr. Napier, please, just wait. So for those who are going to make a statement, if you've testified at our previous meeting, I ask that you wait towards the end of the meeting and allow those who didn't make a comment to go first. We're going to hear everyone's comment, and we'll be here and we'll allow that to happen. Wait a minute, Mr. Napier. But we want to hear all voices in the room tonight, and all of those comments that were made at the Harvard Community Center were recorded and will become part of our document. So again, we're going to take those, because I see a lot of familiar faces were at that prior meeting. We ask those who didn't make a comment at the prior meeting to come up to the microphone first. When you make your comment, I want to ask each person to state your name, the city you live in. It's fine if you don't live in the city of Cleveland. If you do live in the city, we'd like to hear what ward you live in if you know it. And we ask that you make your remarks brief, 3 to 4 minutes. At the first meeting, we had some people who went on for 15 and 20 minutes, and we really want to capture as many thoughts and comments as possible so we can hear as many voices. So we're going to try to end this meeting around 8 o'clock. It may run a little bit over, but I ask that all of you be respectful of those in the room. So does everyone understand the process and buy into that? Okay, I do want to introduce a couple more of my council colleagues. As I said, we're at other meetings. Oh, yeah. I want to recognize Councilman Marty Kane for joining us, and I see Councilman Kevin Conwell in the back of the room. You have a question, Mr. Napier? No speeches, question.
This is the question.
Yes.
I was at the last meeting.
Yes.
This is supposed to be an open forum.
Okay, I'm glad you asked the...
Wait, let me finish, please. Because I'm tired of going to these meetings and I'm not allowed to talk. But let me say this here to you. If I was at the last meeting, it doesn't have anything to do with the next meeting.
Okay.
It's just a tour around the city. You should be democratically fair about it.
Thank you, Mr. Napier. So on your agenda, it says underneath the date, Cleveland City Council is holding a listening tour session throughout the city in an effort to hear residents' concerns and offer a productive and respectful forum for your voices. This is not Q&A, all right? I want everyone to understand that this is not somebody ask a question and then ask for a response. We might clarify certain things, but this is for you to record your comments. We do have translation. So if any speaking population is here and wants to make a comment in your own native language, feel free to do that, and we will have the ability to translate that. Does everybody understand the process moving forward? Please, Mr. Napier, thank you. So I'd ask those who didn't make a comment at the last meeting, please line up first, and then anybody else after join in. Mr. Napier, please, we're going to let you make a comment, but I'm not going to have you come right out at the gate. Please, Mr. Napier. Mr. Napier, first person, please come. First person. State your name, Mr. Napier. No, you're not after her. You were the first person who spoke. I have the mic. You were the first person who spoke at the Harvard Community Center. And you went on for quite a while. I'm asking you be respectful for all these people in the room. I need you to
talk. That's the only thing I want to know. When am I going to be allowed to talk, sir?
When I will let you know. Mr. Napier, can you please sit down?
You want me to stand behind him?
No, I want you to. You're going to get an opportunity. Please state your name.
My name is Audrey Malloy, and I'm in your ward. Personally, I blame all of you. None of you were interested in what we thought after the 139 bullets and McGrath got promoted to a made-up job. None of you cared about what we thought when Chief Williams, and I respect you if you're here, came along and canned Salzer from the 2nd District because, frankly, having lived it myself, I was tired of the disrespect, the dismissal, and being laughed out of the station. I pay your salaries. This is the wrong time for you to suddenly care.
So,
okay?
Tell us your name, please. Let's start with that.
Audrey Malloy.
Okay.
I live on West 64th,
I know
behind Toast.
Audrey, I know who you are. I just want you to state the record.
All I ask is, first of all, does Chief Williams have the real power of a police chief, meaning he can come in and shake things up like he did in 2nd District? Or is some of that power still reserved in McGrath? If he has the power, you share the report with him and let him make the decisions. He's the policeman. I saw during those protests, he was respectful of people's First Amendment right to protest. First Amendment, redress your government, okay? I think he's got the balls to do it. Let him. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's establish something at the front end. City Council doesn't hire or fire anyone. Okay? Ms. Malloy, City Council doesn't hire or fire anyone. That is a power of the administrative branch. We are the legislative branch. Next question, or your name and where you live?
My name is Samantha Pendleton. I live in Ward 15. And I have 3 questions for you, not that I'm expecting answers to tonight, but just to think about.
Sure.
I live in a very racially mixed neighborhood. I have asthma, and you might not know it to look at me, but I'm mentally ill. So my first question is, if I'm having a crisis situation and my family has to call 911, who's going to show up, an ambulance or the cops? Second of all, if the cops show up, am I going to get treated the same way Tanisha Anderson was, or am I going to get treated better than she was? And third, what are you going to do about the fact that either answer to number 2 is a huge problem?
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Vicki Simpkins. I am a proud member, ward person of 15. Number one, I'd like to thank you for doing this. I think this is probably the first positive that I've seen in a long time, and I appreciate that it's City Council that's doing this and understand that it's not coming from City Hall. Number 2 is I definitely agree that we need to go back to local community policing. Again, if we can come up with millions of dollars for paying off really horrendous, sad lawsuits, we can come up with the money to go back to the substations. Number 3 is I keep hearing both via the chatterbox that is social media and on the pundits about, well, there's no snitching amongst the gangs, so that's a problem. Guess what? Is there a place where the CPD individual officers can go and break the blue code when they see errant activity? That's what I would like to stress, because it's the same. I am 100% behind the good officers, but there are those that are out there that aren't. And the officers themselves, I believe, need to have a place where they can safely speak about what is wrong within their own system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Vargo, and I'm in your ward.
Okay, Bonnie.
And I was troubled recently when I was talking to a fellow who I know.
Come on a little closer to the microphone, Ms. Vargo.
He's training. He's in the. He's going to become a policeman. He's been a security guard, and he told me how in his job he was told to rough up somebody, and he worked in a hospital. The other security guard told him, and he at first didn't want to, but that's the way things are done. And so my thought was, well, when is it okay for, police to rough up people? I just like to know when that is okay. I also know of someone else who was beat up. This was a person who was addicted to crack. Mm-hmm. He was weak. He was, and he was beat up by some muscle-bound young policeman. And, I don't understand. So he probably was resisting arrest, but I just don't understand how that's defined. I think that would be helpful to know. Mm-hmm. That's my question.
So no, it's a great question, Kevin. I just, after we're done with this series of listening tours, the council is going to be having a series of specially focused, topical hearings. One of them that we're going to be doing, Councilman Simperman chairs the Health Committee, so the Health Committee and Public Safety will be getting together, looking at what our existing protocol is around dealing with vulnerable populations, the mental health community, looking at what the police protocol is. We will also be having special hearings around use of force and different things like that. This is not an opportunity to have Q&A back and forth, but I suspect other questions might come up like that. I just want the audience to know that we're going to be doing more of these types of things in a committee setting. Thank you, Ms. Fargo.
Yeah, thank you for having this.
Thank you. Next questioner.
I'm Gloria Aaron. I live in a highly drugged neighborhood for, proudly to say, for 30 years, I'm sad to say. And we have tried over and over again to get some response to that. I've written mine down, so I'm going to read it so I would stay calm.
Okay.
Because I have a habit of getting a little off center. All right. The facts are clear. Cleveland's safety department lacks sound hiring and training procedures. We spent $10 million of our tax dollars on lawsuits for use of excess force, which sends a message. It's okay to be a macho cop. You're above the law. The system continues to ignore the facts and rejects making needed changes. For me, this is very reminiscent of Cleveland's school desegregation suit 35 years ago, where Cleveland's power structure and school board, even after being found guilty in 216 instances, fought the order all the way, leaving poor and children of color without a decent education. Cleveland's safety department, today's power structure, and elected officials are doing the same thing, causing unjust deaths. A prime example of how we can prove this is for hiring a man whose former employer stated he should not be in law enforcement. Then teamed him up with an officer where we just paid out $100,000 for use of excess force. And what, putting these two together ultimately led to the death of the 12-year-old boy. I don't believe all police officers are bad, but when you set low standards, fail to enforce rules and regulations, you end up with what we are here today. The facts are clear. There's no need for any more debate. Cleveland needs to accept the Department of Justice report. If we go to court, just like the Cleveland school system, we will be found guilty, we will lose, and we will spend more of our tax dollars. I don't believe we should put the city through this at all. Start fixing it now. Start holding those responsible accountable. It will take months to fix the problems that have been identified, and I sure hope that the court ensures that Cleveland will be monitored for many years down the road. We need to know tonight, and I understand you said you couldn't do that, what power exactly does City Council have? We know that you allocate the funds, but can you pass legislation regarding the hiring and training practices? And I sure hope, Matt, that these meetings are not just a dog and pony show, and that what we hear will mean something. I've attended too many community meetings about safety, and at the end, I've been told by a police officer, learn to live with it or move. I've lived here for 69 years yesterday, and I don't plan on damn moving, but I expect the city and the people that I'm paying taxes for to be accountable. I then went to 2nd District Relations meeting because I believe that's where the community and the police are supposed to figure things out together. And I asked them to be the catalyst to bring city police, county sheriff, federal agents together, and all of us try to figure out how we can deal with the issues. Again, I was told that doesn't fall under what we do. Then why do we have a community relations? Right now, all of Cleveland has seen the Tamir Rice shooting. There's no doubt that there's enough proof that those 2 police officers should be indicted. But we also know how the system works. Both officers need to be indicted. His family, the city of Cleveland, and the police department must have their open day in court. That's how our justice system is supposed to work. I want to know what you guys can do to ensure that those 2 things happen. I hear you say you can't give answers. I've given you a copy. I would like to see it in writing. And for all of us, one thing we need to know, it's great to have these talks, but where is the decision-making power? And if the decision-making power is at the administration, then you need to say, this is what we can do, this is what we need your help in helping us do, but then we need to know that we need to be focusing on the administration or the state or whoever the hell it is to hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron. I should have said this at the onset. There will be several legislative items that will come from the council after we're done with this. We will issue our report probably sometime around the end of February, beginning of March. And within there will be a clear roadmap as to exactly what the council plans on doing. Your name, sir?
Yeah, my name's Jeff Mazo. I live in Ward 15 for the last 4 years. Very elegantly stated before me, but I would like to offer myself to council to be a community person, engaged, to be part of the solution to the challenges and issues we have in the city of Cleveland. And I think that's the only way we're going to move forward, is that we've got to be willing to be part of the solution, get more engaged and involved with the processes that need to be addressed and to be resolved. As society changes in Cleveland, Ohio, we have to change, and we have not done that to meet the cultural diversity of our city. And the challenges with economic disparities, the lack of quality education, and opportunities for employment above the living wage. And I think if we need to address it from a comprehensive point of view, and I'm willing to be part of that. So several council members already know me. I'm actually serve on a community advisory board for the AIDS clinical trial unit at CASE, so I do have perspective on community engagement and involvement. But as early as this morning, my house received a 50-millimeter shot through a building, our house at 250 this morning. We had excellent response from the police for the first time in a long time. Maybe that's because of the bullet, but we need some addressing on a strategic plan in our ward to address the crime in our ward.
Thank you, Mr. Hazel.
Hello. Hi, my name is Christina Keegan. I'm a resident of Ward 15 in the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood. I'll try to be brief, but listening to the comments previous to this, I've been thinking that in this representative democracy, we are at the mercy of the folks in this room, are at the mercy of the choices that council and the administration will make in order to enact reforms that many in this room and in the city are talking about every day. I would like to request that in the next 3 or 4 days that the council and the administration can present through the media or through their website ways in which citizens can meaningfully be involved in enacting reforms of the police department. I appreciate that folks have committed to working through the consent decree to make reforms, but that's a process that strictly involves the city and its lawyers and the DOJ. The reforms that people in our communities want may or may not fall within the consent decree, and I'd like to know specifically in what ways can community members be involved in creating the consent decree, and in what ways is the city council and administration, as well as the police, committed to involving community members in creating real reforms, and not just, hearing our concerns, saying what's going to happen next, and letting that go forward. So thank you.
Thank you for your thoughtful comment.
I'm Linda Barley. I live in the Flats in Ward 3, and my comments dovetail with the previous speaker's comments. When I heard that there was a city commission of citizens to review police activity, I'd never heard of this before. And I asked several people who have been born and raised here, and they weren't aware of it either. There were two people who were aware of it, but they laughed, and they didn't even answer me when I asked them if they knew what that group did. I would like to see City Council look at reasons that that organization may not be as effective as citizens would like it to be. I've had a lot of background dealing with organizational dynamics, and I know there are a lot of ways that obstacles can be put in the way of effectiveness of organizations and committees and commissions and boards. And I certainly would hope that City Council would look at the current dynamics of that group, find out if they have enough resources to do their job, if they've had enough orientation to do their job effectively, if they have enough professional outside help in an advisory capacity to do their job, and if they have reports that they published that are not strictly confidential from a judicial point of view, that those reports be made public to everyone. And, consider whether or not fresh blood is needed on that committee, because a lot of times people get into a position and they stay there and there aren't term limits, and then things just kind of stop moving forward. So my request is that City Council look at the effectiveness of that committee and ways, perhaps even in your legislative agenda, to make sure that that's an effective committee.
Thank you, Ms. Barley. Yeah, raise that mic. You're a tall guy. There you go. That's good.
Oh, God. My name's Courtney Drain. I live in Ward 15. So I want to talk about the Citizens Review Board a little bit. There was a study done, and 83% of people said that their complaint was not thoroughly investigated. 82% said they were not informed of their status of their complaint during the process. 73% said their report wasn't investigated in a timely manner, and 61% didn't feel that the process gave them a full opportunity to present their complaints, and that's frankly ridiculous. What are they getting paid for?
Sure.
Another thing I want to bring up is that...
Just before you go on that point, cite that report, just so people know what report you're referring to.
It's the CSU study. It was done by Ronnie Dunn.
Okay, thank you. Continue, please.
I also want to point out that in 2013, 73% of the arrests were black people. And the population of black people in this city is a bit over 50%, if I'm correct. So that's not adding up whatsoever. We have a race issue. We've had a race issue since Huff, and it still exists. And I'm not going to act like it doesn't exist, no matter how much people want me to act like it doesn't exist, because it does. This is a black issue. It's a very serious issue, and it needs to be fixed. Okay? People are going to say, everything I'm thinking about, statistics and blah, 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 and so I'm not even going to talk about that anymore. Frankly, I don't trust you as the chair of the safety committee. I'm making this personal, even though you asked me not to. I'm not going to be tone policed because I have something to say. All right? When our police department is targeting black people and you show up to a Sea of Blue rally in full blue attire and you go and talk to a cop and you see our group of counter-protesters who were very peaceful and silent, and you see, I know you saw us and you didn't come over and talk to not one of us. You didn't shake our hands, all right? So I frankly have a very hard time trusting you as a safety director to improve my community and to make things better for the people in my community. You said you want to be neutral. Start by not going to a pro-cop rally weeks after Tanisha Anderson and Tamir Rice were murdered. Not wrongful death, murdered. Okay? You want to be neutral. You can go to that Sea of Blue rally, but I want to see you out at some Black Lives Matter protests too.
Thank you. I was at other rallies as well, but next questioner.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Philpott. I was born and raised in the 5th Ward. I currently live in the 6th Ward. I met with Miss Mitchell. I did an interview with Miss Mitchell at the beginning of this year. So, anyway, just to piggyback on something that he was saying, and this is not an attack on y'all, but I have this saying, right? Although pain can be a great motivator for growth and change, it shouldn't have to take pain and growth for us to change in the city of Cleveland. It shouldn't have to take people to die. It shouldn't have to take 137. Matter of fact, it shouldn't even have to take the federal government to come into our city and dictate the changes that need to be made here. You know, that's not, we're not blind. You know, I have conversations. The conversations that I have with my friends is the conversations that I think all of us should have in public. Racism is not a problem, it's a reality. Stereotyping is not a problem, it's a reality. Economic statutes, economic judgments is not a problem. These is realities. They've been a reality since the existence of the United States of America. The problem comes in when we don't choose to talk about it no more. If you want to be racist, it's okay to be racist. I tell people all the time, if that's what you want to do, but let everybody know. So we know what we up against. When we start turning into cowards and hiding that type of behavior from everyone else, it takes away our chances to interact with each other on a social level. These is realities of life, man. They're always going to be here. The conversation that you have with your colleagues when y'all leave here, have an open forum. Grow some. Grow a step. And tell somebody how you really feel. That's where the change is going to come in at. Until then, we're going to continue to have someone else come in and dictate how our city should be ran or how individuals should be treated. We know it's racist cops on force of the Cleveland Department. We know it is. Just tell them that they are so you can put them where they want to control their own race at. I mean, come on, y'all. This is reality. Don't walk away from this. Yo, it shouldn't take somebody from Washington 5 hours from here to come and dictate, all of a sudden we need to do something about this. No, we should have done something about it before the 130-something shots went out.
Councilman Zone. My name is Rick Nagan. I live in Ward 14, and I've lived in that neighborhood for almost 40 years. And I'm the Democratic ward leader in that ward and also a member of the executive committee of the Democratic Party in this county. And I want to thank you and all the councilmen who are here for having this kind of a meeting to allow people to express their feelings about the terrible incidents that occurred, the killing of Tamir Rice and Tanisha Anderson in our community. But I think we also know that this is not a problem restricted to Cleveland. Whether it's in Staten Island, where Eric Garner was killed by the police, where excessive force was used there, or whether it's in Ferguson, where Michael Brown was the victim of excessive force and murdered by the police, or whether it's on the West Coast in Los Angeles, where that 51-year-old great-grandmother was beaten viciously by a state patrolman. This is a national problem, and it's being dealt with to some degree. I think the administration in Washington is attempting to come up with some policies to deal with it, to address the concerns. And this real issue, and there is a pattern of excessive police violence, particularly directed at African Americans, that has to be addressed. Especially any young African American men who, in some reason or other, are judged by the police to not show absolute respect, there is a reaction that any kind of force is justifiable. But we want to make sure that this kind of thing never happens again. We've got to stop it, and we want to see that justice is done in the situations here in Cleveland. And unfortunately, this is not just a new situation. This has been going on in Cleveland and throughout our country really for as long as there have been urban police forces, which are about 150 years old in this country. This has been going on of excessive police force, and especially directed at minorities and African Americans and other minorities. And I'm afraid to say that it is going to continue. It is going to continue as long as there's no accountability. I think, I'm very glad that the Justice Department has made these findings, but we've had these findings before from the Justice Department and from the State Attorney General. And we know that the kind of programs that come out for improved training and hiring practices and community policing, but it doesn't change things. And it's not going to change anything as long as there is no accountability. As long as the police feel that they can do this kind of thing, that they can commit murder and get away with it, this is going to continue. And I've written a letter to the county prosecutor, Tim McGinney, asking that he file charges in this case. And I hope that he does, because we saw what's happened in Staten Island and Ferguson, where the prosecutors are afraid to move against the police. They're afraid of the police. And this is not just a black problem also, because white people in this community are afraid of the police also. And we can't have that kind of a situation. And it's going to continue, as I say, until there are indictments and charges and indictments and trials. This is going to continue. So if you feel the same way I do, I've made up a petition to McGinty asking that he file charges in the case of Tamir Rice. I think there's some people here who have the petition, my wife and my daughter and Eric Deemer over there. Please sign it. We've got to let McGinney know that he can't do what this prosecutor did in Ferguson, where he actually held a grand jury and brought witnesses in that he knew were lying to support the position of the police. He said he knew that this woman who claimed that she saw, Mike Brown attack the police officer, that he wasn't even anywhere near the scene of the incident. And yet, we can't allow McGinty to do that. And McGinty has a lot of ties with the police also. And I'm concerned about whether he will actually go forward on this. And we've got to put public pressure on him to file charges. Now, McGinty also has a certain record. He's the person that prosecuted Michael Green and sent him to prison for 14 years when he was totally innocent, found later to be totally innocent. So I think, and he claims that he learned that was the worst mistake he ever made, and he learned from that, and he said that he knows that there's a sentiment in the community that there's racial bias in the criminal justice system, and that he wants to take action to make sure that perception is eliminated. So I think he's open to pressure, and I hope that everybody here will put pressure on him, because that's the only way we're going to stop this, is if there's indictments and charges brought against these officers.
Thank you, Mr. Nagin.
Thank you. My name is Pierre Napier, and I want to just take a few minutes to read a conversation that I had, if I may, Mr. Chairperson, sure, that I had with the person who wrote that report. On Monday, December the 15th, 2014, at 7 p.m., a community meeting was conducted by Reverend Harris at Mount Olive Baptist Church, 3290 East 126th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. I, Pierre Napier, introduced myself as a one-man campaign against the neo-Nazi movement within the ranks and leadership of the Cleveland Police Department. I then began to question United States Attorney Stephen M. Delabach on the number of white neo-Nazi Cleveland police officers he had prosecuted that had shot and killed poor black citizens. He stated he has never prosecuted a white neo-Nazi Cleveland police officer. It was also pointed out to Attorney Delabach that he failed to include racial profiling in his report on the neo-Nazi movement in the ranks and leadership of the Cleveland Police Department. No response. Some of the people in the meeting called out. Was it because of white supremacy? Again, no response. However, Reverend Harris then whispered in my ear he was aware of white supremacy. My question is, does the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division serve the best interests of poor blacks in Cleveland, Ohio? How can that be, with decisions being made by all-white Civil Rights Division? The Cleveland Police Department is made up of over 90% of the white race who have no knowledge of black people or the black experience. They are fearful of the black community, causing them to react with brutality, torture, and even murder. This impacts the quality of life in poor black communities. We need to solve our own problems and not continue to act as if we are still under the slave master's will while they continue to kill our children. Cleveland, Ohio, a city with a long history of racism, yet in total denial. A city is in crisis. Pierre Napier, the storyteller for freedom. Willie Lynch, Frank Jackson, Negro mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, must resign for the betterment of the black community. Department of Justice United States Attorney Stephen M. Delabach stated he has never prosecuted a white police officer for killing a black citizen. He needs to resign for the betterment of the black community. The neo-Nazi movement in the ranks and leadership of the Cleveland Police Department has eroded trust over a number of years through racial profiling, brutality, and murder. It must acknowledge and eradicate those guilty parties must be prosecuted under a federal hate crime. 12-year-old Ariel Brown called the killing of her friend, Tamara Rice, a hate crime. The barbaric killing of 12-year-old Tamara Rice by neo-Nazi Cleveland police officer Timothy Loman, the shooter with possible mental health issues, should be prosecuted under that statute of hate. God bless each and every one of you. Those of you that believe in democracy and don't believe in God, if you believe all this is all right, and I heard somebody say you march with those neo-Nazis. Neo-Nazis are in the Cleveland Police Department. Neo-Nazis are in City Hall. And no one is going to silence Pierre Napier, whether it's you or anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Napier. Please.
Hi, I'm Misty Lumine. I live in Ward 15.
Tell us your name again. I couldn't hear it.
Misty Lumine.
Misty Lumine.
So I moved here 2 years ago, and I was shocked when I read the DOJ report that no mention of race was made. I live in a mixed neighborhood, both economically and racially. And in November, I was driving down Lorraine, and there was a driver's license checkpoint. And a white cop saw me in my car as a white woman and just waved me through. And I know for a fact, had I been a black man or a black woman, they would have stopped me and checked me. And I feel like the over-policing of communities of color is directly tied to the amount of violence that they're experiencing. And so that being said, in response to the Department of Justice report, there is a coalition for a safe, fair, and just Cleveland that they're working on, and I would like to add my support to the idea that they are instrumental in crafting the consent decree, and then remain in place afterwards in order to make sure that it's being followed. And it would be an independent body that would not have anything to do with the elected officials, the legislative branch, or the administrative branch, but some sort of citizens review board outside of the citizens review board. So there are people already in place that are working on that. I'm sure you've met a couple of them.
Sure.
So I'd like to lend my support to that.
Thank you, Ms. Teen. We have been speaking with them, and feel free, anything you have to forward on to our clerk of council, we'll make sure it gets incorporated into our report. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Councilman, for convening this forum. I think it has been illustrative of the way that the residents of the city and this community feel. My name is Camilo Villa. I'm a resident of Ward 15 here in this neighborhood. Not so much tonight, which is not surprising, but in general, we've heard a lot about the good police, including at a rather significant rally over the weekend, though I suspect those were mostly not people from the city. The thing is, good police are not the question. Good police should be apparent. Good police should be the default. The problem is the bad ones, the apparently pervasive bad police officers outlined throughout the Department of Justice report and more recently punctuated by the outrageous killings of Tanisha Anderson and Tamir Rice. They are the issue. And for me, living here in the city, I question how I, in good faith, can, in an emergency situation, be confident in calling the Cleveland police to respond. And I say that as a white male. I can only imagine how I would feel as a black man or perhaps a woman facing domestic violence with our current police force. So, supporting the police force doesn't just mean blindly supporting the police. It means supporting transparency and real community dialogue about the police. We're here supposedly to discuss the findings of the Department of Justice report and solutions to the problems outlined therein, but where are we supposed to find it? Now, I know where to find it, but I'm certainly not going to find it on the City of Cleveland's website or the administration's website or council's website because it's not there. We need the best access possible to that by our leadership here in the city. Without that transparency, there's no meaningful discussion and there's really no accountability. Because what we're talking about is an utter lack of accountability in our police force. Supporting the police means excising the elements of that force that make both the police and the community less safe, such as the officers who routinely pistol whip people, shoot at kidnapping victims, abuse a teenager who's already in handcuffs. Those are the people that we need to be addressing, not the good cops, right? Now, I'm a union representative, so I regularly advocate for workers facing discipline. So as a union representative, I'd just like to say that the union is not an excuse. Hiding behind a powerful union, I don't care how powerful a union, is a dodge. You can hold workers, you can hold employees accountable when they violate the rules. Now, I know there's challenges built into the arbitration process, but it's not an excuse. It's a dodge. So, on that note, accountability that is so lacking in our police force has to begin with leadership. Now, as it's been made clear, council, and I'm so glad to see so many of our council people here, doesn't hire and fire. You don't have direct control over who is employed by the city. But you do have a voice, and you do have a bully pulpit, and you are our representatives. And as such, I would encourage any of the council people who have not yet done so to follow the leadership displayed by Councilman Brian Cummins and Jeff Johnson to call on Martin Flask and Mike McGrath to resign effective immediately. Their continuing service, and I do believe that it is service, but their continued service at this juncture is a clear indication to the rank and file of the Cleveland Police Department that accountability is not a priority of the city's leadership. So, on that note, if they will not resign, and the mayor will not force them to resign, and I wish he was here, but he's not, then council as a whole must demand their resignation. Your silence on this issue, your silence is consent, and your support is encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you, Camilo.
Hi, my name is Randy Cunningham. I live at 3623 West Boulevard, and I'm still a little bit behind some of the shifts of ward numbers, so please apologize.
You live in Councilwoman Brady's ward.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes, I know that. You know, when I was growing up, I always heard that in the United States, in our democracy, the civilian authorities were superior to those of the security forces. That's the theory. And then we've got such things as NSA spying on us. We've got the revelations about the entire torture regime. I've been very active in climate change politics, and it's a constant worry where the police agencies are basically going to bat on undercover operations against activist groups that are entirely peaceful. So this brings up my question is, are we still in a country where there is civilian authority over the security forces? Maybe that's the theory, but I really have my doubts about the reality of it. Now, there is a characteristic of people that have a lot of power, in that they carry in their wallet a get-out-of-jail card with unlimited mileage on it. And everybody talks about the bankers of Wall Street who tanked our economy, and not one of them has done the perp walk. Well, when you look at Ferguson, when you look at Staten Island, New York City, and countless other cases, it seems that the police have that magic card in their wallet too. Now, one thing that I think is a problem, and that problem is that within the ranks of policing, the police department harbors what is, I think, a paramilitary counterculture that only formally feels that civilians have authority over them, and that they look upon themselves as being a self-contained, hermetically sealed, armed cult is what they are. And that gives them strength in the short run. But I think it's a trap for them in the long run and all. And I just say, with the recent Tamir Rice thing, the safest bet you can ever make is that nobody's going to be indicted or punished for this killing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Ray Coleman. I represent the Imperial Women Coalition, which was the group founded around the unprecedented murders of 11 black women on Imperial Avenue in Cleveland. Good afternoon to council and to the community. We knew then, and let me say that we thank Attorney General Eric Holder and Mr. Dadelbach for finding systemic problems in the Cleveland Police Department, from malicious killings to tasing to cruel and unusual punishment against the mentally ill. That's a powerful report, but it did not go far enough. You did not deal with the county prosecutor's office prejudice in terms of supporting the police and not wanting to indict them under the leadership of Tim McGinty. You did not deal with the fact that the 34 judges in the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas are disproportionately sentencing black people. We support people across racial lines, but an NAACP study found that blacks get harsher sentences. Police get more lenient treatment, and they don't get prosecuted. We knew when they began taking those women out of Imperial Avenue that they had a problem, because in 2008, they let Anthony Sowell go, and after that, he killed the last 6 of the Imperial Avenue women. We picketed in front of the mayor's house, because at the time he had no blacks. as law director, safety director, chief police, chief prosecutor, EMS commissioner in a predominantly black city, and that is an indictment against the black community. At the time, Mr. McGrath got on TV and he condemned those women. For that, and for the fact that they have been the commanders in chief under this leadership, when this has been found to be systemically harmful, we call for their immediate resignations. And finally, we say to council, have the guts to pass an ordinance so that the community can have a public forum at City Hall. To do otherwise is a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman.
Good evening. We're in a church, so first giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. And he sent me, we're still around a church, and he sent me to do this. I meet with you all weekly, as I said at the last meeting. But it puzzled me. It sincerely puzzled me to find out exactly how heavy the board was, okay? Because at the last meeting, you only had 2 of your members, okay? You only had 2 of your members. You had other council around you, but you only had 2 of your members from your board. And as I look at your board today, you only have 3 of your board beside you. So if you want us, Matt, to take you sincerely, if you want us honestly to take you sincerely, and your board as a whole, you need to have it where if there's a city council meeting on a Monday, a councilman can only not make it there if he's excused. Am I right? I have not heard you all call an excusement in the first meeting. I probably won't hear it, or I might hear it tonight because I mentioned it. But I'm going back for a minute on the basis of that case of Ms. Anderson. Because, like I said, I sit on a board that deals with that. So, I've asked for over a month, where is the findings of this young lady? Because at the last meeting, I watched her sister stand in the middle of the floor and break down. Okay? Like I told you before, y'all criticize everyone but yourselves. Everyone but yourselves. The same board right now that sits for safety is the board that was there before. Only changes. See, I'm in City Hall. I can tell you all. Only changes is that my councilman is now on the board, okay? And besides that, Mr. Conwell is no longer the chair. He's the vice chair. So if you want me to believe that your job is something that you're going downtown to do, and you know that I'm following you, I would like to know why it is you just change chairs. Why it is that you just change chairs. I cried to Jane Fumik about the finding of Miss Anderson. She told me, Jane, find out what you can find out. I called Miss Conwell because I couldn't find out nothing in the county. And let me tell you what I found out. There's one medical examiner. There is a team, maybe 5 to 10 workers underneath him. But Cuyahoga County people have grown from the time that we got rid of Dennis Kucinich for the other woman that took won his place. Cuyahoga County now goes from Cleveland, downtown Cleveland, to almost, what is it, Akron or Youngstown? One of the two. So here it is. They said, I said, how many bodies do you all get within a month's time? I want to know how many bodies you get within a month's time. They tell me, well, 200 to 250. One medical examiner. My mother was a retired surgical nurse. One medical examiner ain't gonna look at 200 to 250 bodies within a month's time. And then you turn around, that only can be solved when the county puts money into a budget and finds someone to do the job. But to go back, as I said, your board's been set up underneath Frank Jackson for 10 years. 10 years. And I ain't seen nothing. And we done been in every church there is, from Olivet to here. And like I said, the only changes I see is 2 faces.
Sure. No.
So we're missing a whole lot when I look at Tamir Rice and I see an autopsy come back in 1 week. And then I turn around and I'm crying for this young woman's autopsy and to find out what's happening with hers. And Dr. Gilson tell me maybe in another 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, James, what we'll do...
Come on, because I'm going to tell you this, and I'm through with you.
Sure.
I said it at the last meeting, I'll say it again. When you talk about getting rid of someone, people, please understand this. When you talk about getting rid of someone, I ain't never stepped on a ladder, whereas I didn't have to step on the first step to get to the top, okay? So if I done worked up underneath one man for 10 years, and I done seen the justice system come in here since 2002, and it's 2014, people, come on, tell me, how long one of y'all been on council? Which one of y'all been on council for the last year? None of you. Let's get busy, people. Let's get busy.
Thank you, James.
Because I'm getting ready to ask for a recall.
Thank you, James. We will make, as part of this findings, we don't hire the medical examiner. That's a county function. James, please. I listened and didn't interrupt. Please, it's my turn. But we will make part of the findings, what we're hearing from the community is that they want more than one medical professional at the county. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for your passion. I thank you for coming to all of our council meetings. But I will share with the group that this is kind of unprecedented what council is doing. James, please. James, please. James. So this is James, this is unprecedented that the council is coming out into the community. It didn't happen in 2002. It didn't happen in 2014. I'm not living in the rear, and I'm not looking in the rearview mirror. We're moving forward. This council truly cares. We're here in 2014. Please, sir, your name and we.
Yes. My name is Kareem Hinton. I'm from Ward 14. I'm here pretty much because I want my neighborhood back. The problems that I have regarding what I see currently being done, the way things are operated here in the city of Cleveland, it seems like a pretty simple fix to me. Gone are the days when I was younger and we had the officer that came to our school, so to speak, or the officers that you knew in the neighborhood, officer friendly. Mm-hmm. We don't have that anymore. So because we don't have that, there's no officer in which we have any kind of rapport with. that officer that we could even loosely call a friend. Instead, they ride around in their patrol cars with sunglasses on, looking like the worst of the gang members that I go past when I'm in any part of the city. I can read their lips. So oftentimes when they're calling me a piece of S, and they don't know me, they don't know that I'm a homeowner.
Right.
They don't know that I'm a father, and they don't know that I'm a hardworking, employed man. There might be a couple of officers that know this about me. Good officers like Keith Sulzer. Good officers like Officer Stample, who actually took the time to talk to me, which helped to develop a rapport with me. And I actually helped him do some things to rid some jerks out of the community I used to live in. That was because we had a connection. But because we've got officers riding around with a gang mentality, they're not in our neighborhoods like someone mentioned earlier. What's wrong with having substations back? Believe me, that would be a tremendous help. The other thing is, why don't you fight to make officers have to live in the city? Because here's the problem. When officers don't live in the city, they're coming into the city because that's where they work. They come into the city, it's like they're coming into the war zone. So they look at us as the enemy. They don't identify with us. That furthers the disconnect. And so because I don't look like their neighbors, or I don't look like their family member, that's why when they see a person that's only a passenger in a car, not even the one driving the car, but you will riddle that car with 137 bullets, it's because that person does not look like their neighbor or their family member, that they didn't even consider that woman was perhaps being held hostage.
Right.
They asked no questions, and that woman died. So the excuse of they shouldn't have ran, there was only one person driving that car. Nobody even looks at that. So when I look at, or rather when I pretty much consider what they're feeding off of, and they're feeding off of this right here. There's a common attitude that the poor, the lower middle class, and minorities are the enemy. And so because we're viewed as the enemy, the police, who are the troops or the front line, are given blanket support to do whatever they got to do. And if they take out a good citizen here or there, it's okay because it's just collateral damage, as long as they're safe, as long as they're okay. The same people that support that crap are the same ones that I guarantee you don't have a problem with CIA torture and so forth, because it's so long as we're safe over here. That mentality, I feel, has to go. We need the people back in the community, because I promise you, that crap about, don't snitch, stop snitching, right, that stuff changes. It's in people's nature. It's a basic fact. It's in our nature to communicate with those we feel a connection with. Right. And you better believe that when a person has that cell phone number in which they can just call and leave a little tip on the voicemail, or that officer in passing at the store or whatever, they will pass on that piece of information about the person who's doing what, who did what, or whatever you might want to know. And I ask that the officers reciprocate, and they probably would reciprocate and actually snitch or drop a dime or inform or whatever on some of their brother officers, because they feel that connection too. Because they know that that's a good citizen and not just one of the enemy combatants.
Right.
And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. I thank you for your passion. You were spot on with your comments. I just want to let the community know this council vigorously fought back the challenge that happened with residency. That wasn't something that we did. The state took that away from us. We put resolutions. We went down to the State House. We testified against it, and it was something we couldn't do. But I appreciate and share the same feeling that you have. Thank you, Mr. Hinton.
My name is Drew Ullman. I'm a resident of Ward 15. First of all, Matt, I want to thank you for taking leadership on this initiative. And it looks like we have a quorum for City Council. You could have a meeting if you wanted to. But in all seriousness, while I'm a big fan of most of what you do, I am disappointed that you went to that Blue Lives Matter rally. It was the Blue Lives Matter rally, although not led by you or anybody else, or anybody in this room, was a defensiveness bordering a defiance. And it was absolutely outrageous that rally took place. This is a time for people in the entire law enforcement community, from the beat cop to the desk jockey, all the way up to McGrath and Flask, for a time of introspection about the racism and the bias that they have and that's within the system. The police should focus on protecting people's civil and constitutional and human rights as much as they're concerned about enforcing the law. This council and the city, including Mayor Jackson, needs to drastically reform the disciplinary process that police go through. No more of this weak administrative leave nonsense. They need to be fired and prosecuted when things like this happen. But the fact of the matter is that we can improve and reform the police as much as we want. We can do everything that we know we need to get done. The fact of the matter is that this will happen again, whether here in Cleveland or anywhere else in this country, because the sad fact of the matter is that the individual cops, even the blue-collar cops, are paid to defend a racist, classist system that protects the interests of the wealthy and of the 1%, and not us. So keep that in mind when you guys think of new rules and regulations to come to deal with the police, because they need to be kept on a very short leash, as long as that's true. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Blessings to all. My name is Marva Patterson, and I am a Christian community activist. I've been out here for quite some time. I've heard a lot of the stories. I personally, as residents go, my husband and I are victims of a fraudulent foreclosure. So that's something we're going to deal with down the line. Today I'm here to really prayerfully ask that everyone sitting before me will really hear the stories and actively move towards change, positive change, because I've seen the abuse out there. I've seen young girls being beaten up by the police, filing complaints against the police officers, and no one protected this particular person's rights, and her name is Rebecca Whitby. I have come to numerous forums and I have tried to express concern because things are being ignored. The laws are being ignored. Constitutional rights are being ignored. Police officers are allowed to get away with this. They file reports, they lie on reports, and this is factual. I ask all to view evidence for yourselves. Don't just listen to what's being told before you. Read. Thank God for education. Read. I've viewed reports. I've read officers' reports. I've seen the lies. It is very consistent. And this must end. I personally do not want to see another young person die at the hands of an officer who is in violation of that person's human rights and constitutional rights. The immunity clause does not apply to a police officer outside those parameters. We have the ORC laws that supposedly sets precedents, legal precedents, that these officers are violating. And I will just talk about the pursuit policies for a minute. During the 137, we had so many cars pursuing one car. But the ORC laws require only 2 cars. Please review those laws yourselves. But I will honestly ask today, please, listen with your hearts what's being said here. Listen to the individuals that come before you. Don't just sit and not take heed to what's being said. These are painful things. A mother losing her child. She expected 12-year-old Tamir to come home, not to get a phone call saying your son is shot. These are issues. So as a Christian, as a person, as a human being, I just implore all of you, please don't let these stories go on deaf's ear. And at the last community forum, I asked the question, what would Jesus do? Jesus would love his people. He would not allow this to happen. I received phone calls because of what I had said. And to my amazement, individuals were stunned that no one is truly paying attention to the heart and what's being done out here. These are horrible things. Someone to die and bleed out. These are horrible things. So I'm just imploring everyone, please do something. Don't just let this pass by you as a momentary thought. So as a human being, I ask this.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. I can assure you, Ms. Patterson and others, I mean, my colleagues really care. They're here, they're listening, we are taking copious notes, and you will see that in action from this council after the first of the year. Please state your name and where do you live? Come closer to the mic, please.
I'm Eric Deemer. I live in Lakewood, but just over the border with Cleveland. So I just wanted to say something kind of about this actual process because, I mean, I'm a big activist and talk forever in larger, police abuse issues, but how this is going vis-a-vis. So as again, not to personalize it, and I don't really personalize stuff because I think everyone's part of systems. I mean, we've been trained to look at like anecdotes and people's stories, but it's really all about systematic problems. And so, but Councilman Zone, as has been pointed out, shamefully, disgracefully, in my opinion, attended the quote-unquote Sea of Blue event over the weekend, in which one of the main speakers, who was, I think, a former Cleveland cop who's now some kind of right-wing radio host or something, said that this report we're all discussing was a fiction. And so it's kind of curious. We're all discussing this report, that it's possible that a lot of these folks, if they attended that, you don't have to sign on with every word said at a rally you go to. I understand that. I go to a lot of them and don't agree with everything that's said. But that's the starting point of the Sea of Blue rally. But you can look at other stuff. So what does the police union say? We had the outgoing chief of the union, Steve Fulmer, has been famous. He goes on MSNBC every night just to give us more stuff to be mad about, saying that the killing of Tamir was justified, that he was this, that the officer Lohman was under some kind of threat from this 12-year-old kid. But it must just be that he's a bad guy. Let's check the incoming, head of the PBA here, or whatever they call it here, Steve Loomis, who in an interview about this very report, again the report we're discussing, he said that the whole thing, it's just a bunch of people who sit behind desks, and they're not fit to judge what police officers do, and it's just, Dettelbach is just grandstanding. So, that's what we're dealing with. That's the mentality of what we're dealing with, of this incredibly entrenched, as some of my colleagues were saying before, very powerful municipal employee union, and this process we're trying to do to get them in some kind of line, this whole process of the DOJ report and the consent decree, which I guess is the second time we've been down this road in 10 years. I didn't live in Cleveland at the time. That's where we are. And pretty much council has no real power to implement that or be in the negotiation of the consent decree. So we have these listening tours where everyone talks about their problems, but I'm not sure what it does. And especially when you have council people who I question their ability to be fair arbiters of the process, if they're supporting this entire structure of the police and the police unions, who say that the DOJ report is a sham and is just made by desk jockeys. I don't know where we go from that. My point isn't to be discouraging. This might be part of it, but there's a hell of a lot of other, I like the idea of the petition to get the indictment, other sort of direct action stuff going on, but it's just, the system of these unions, it's respectable to sort of defend them. Like, can you imagine if public teachers, if kids died in a school and they said, the kid died, he mouthed off, or, you don't understand, you're not a teacher, you can't judge what I do, you don't understand what I do. And then would that be accepted? Like, they're good union people, they work with us on SB 5, so we're going to work with them now. No. But for some reason, we're accepting, we're letting these basically folks around here, like white mainstream labor Democrats, because they worked with these police unions in 2011, think that they're for something good. They're not. They're completely reactionary institutions, and they do everything to make more mandatory sentencing laws, to more drug laws. They support the private prison industrial complex, and you need to know what you're dealing with, and you need to know the process. And I don't have the answers, but that's the beginning. Okay, sorry, bye.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Good, Mr. Patterson.
I'm Dave Patterson. I'm a resident of the city of Cleveland, and I'm also the president of the Carl Stokes Brigade. And I'd like to start off. Thank you. I'd like to start off by saying that I'd like to reiterate something that I heard in the previous forum. The gentleman who was stand up and he was talking about the mentality of the cops that do these kind of things, and he kind of epitomized it in a 3-word phrase, which I thought was great because it does pretty much say what they think and how they act. He said they have a comply or die mentality. Now, when you really think about that, if that's the way they truly think, that's where your problem lies. And as I see how they operate on the streets of Cleveland, I would have to, concur that there are some officers that actually do think that way. And the report actually bears that out when it talks about people being hit in the head with guns after they're already cuffed, and kicked and beaten after they're already restrained. It does have that comply or die mentality. There was an FBI data report that just came out, and this is really shocking, and I thought I needed to say this, which is not shocking in terms of the information itself, but just the idea that the FBI data on these things says that black males between the ages of 15 and 19 are 21 times more likely to be killed than white males in their age group. That's horrendous when you think about it. That's not a Cleveland problem. That's a national problem. And we're going to have to deal with this. The other thing that I noticed that I hear a lot from the police union and people that represent the police is it's a semantics issue. It's almost like they're saying if we're pro-equality with respect to law enforcement, we're automatically anti-police. That's absolutely not true. But this is what they're spinning. Joseph Houseman in Kalamazoo, Michigan, was outside of a Dairy Queen with a loaded rifle. This wasn't that long ago, back in the spring, I think. The police officers pulled up and they spent 40 minutes talking a Caucasian gentleman down that had a loaded rifle in public, near a thoroughfare, in front of a Dairy Queen. But they give Tamir Rice less than 2 seconds? What kind of insanity is that? That's supposed to be equality in law enforcement? That's ridiculous. But these are the kind of things that we're dealing with on a regular basis, and we think this is normal? I mean...
None of us up here think this is normal, but continue on, Mr. Patterson.
But I'm saying this to say that we have a consensus and our police factions across the country that basically say, when we do these things, you are not to challenge this. Mm-hmm. We are the end-all, be-all. But who makes the call? Who says a 12-year-old deserves to die with an airsoft gun in 2 seconds, but a man in Kalamazoo, Michigan gets 40 minutes with a loaded rifle? Mm-hmm. Who makes that call? Police officers that we rely on make this call every day. And who suffers? The African American community. Every single day of our lives. We've got to get to work on this.
Thank you.
One other thing. When will these forums be on TV 20? Because I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, there was, and I'm glad you asked that question. There was a problem because a lot of staff was off because of the holiday. The one that was in the Harvard neighborhood is going to be on next week. This is going to be a week later. They're going to all follow a week after they actually air, because they have to edit it and put it all together.
Okay, but there won't be any of the testimony edited.
And no. Everything that is said will be on there. In fact, we're going to even put links on our website so people can view them all.
All right,
well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please tell us your
Sorry
name.
again, I'm not very good at speaking.
You're good. Tell us your name and where you live.
My name is Etoya Edwards, and I am in Ward 15. And what I wanted to say is, growing up, we was taught to call the cops if you have a problem. We can't call the cops now. I've been here for 11 years in this ward, and every time I called the cops, I had a problem. And my cousin just got beat up not too long ago from a police officer for no apparent reason. All the kids that we have around here can't call the cops if they get into it because they're not going to do anything. They're either going to take them to jail or they're going to just dismiss it. Been doing it for a minute now. And I feel as if you're the councilman, so I want to know what happened to all the programs for the kids. If you give them programs, they will go. They don't have no programs or anything to go to, so the only thing that they could do is go in the streets. And that's a problem for this community. And I've been seeing for 11 years more and more kids out on the streets, and they pick up bad habits. And now I can't call the cops. I'm scared to call the cops, so I know a child would be scared to call the cops. And that's all I have to say.
So, Ms. Edwards, at the end of the meeting, I want to give you my card. There's a lot of programs for kids, and I'd like to talk to you about them at the end. Thank you for testifying. Next speaker.
Hello. Cleveland City Council. Angela Shikazi. I'm an almost 8-year resident of this ward, Ward 15. And I first and foremost want to thank every one of you for being here, because frankly, I wish more of your colleagues were here as well to listen to these people. And Matt, I have to tell you, Councilman Zone, I'm really proud of you. Thank you for doing this, because what you said earlier is true. This is unprecedented, and it is an appropriate response, though. I'm not going to overstep that it's an appropriate response, and thank you for doing this, and thank each and every one of you again. Not only am I a resident, though, you all know, as I'm also the executive director of a nonprofit here in Cleveland that deals with housing and landlord-tenant issues. And as you know, as you can probably imagine, I've been talking to a lot of my colleagues around, and the reality is, I have power to deal with landlord-tenant issues, my board and myself. That's our purview. That's my purview. And police reform is not my purview. I don't have any power over that. You guys do. And so the reality is, I'm appealing to you right now, in fact, on behalf of a lot of other executive directors who I've talked to who won't come up and talk, that we can't do our jobs unless, it doesn't matter if I stabilize someone's housing situation if they're afraid they're going to go get shot by the very people that they think are supposed to protect them. So it's all interconnected, and I just urge you, please don't let this be the end of this. Please don't let this be the end of this conversation and this dialogue. I actually have faith in all of you, by the way, and I think the onus is going to be on council, frankly, to propel the change. And I hope that you guys, as a collective and as a body, will remain unified. And I totally, I think this can happen, because I will tell you, the upswing of Cleveland, this positive upswing that we have, that can also transcend this issue. Now, the one thing I do want to say is that that's pretty much all I want to say, I guess. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Angela.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jack Gallagher. I proudly live in Ward 15. As a matter of fact, I chose to move to Cleveland, and I chose to move into Ward 15, even though I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the mid-Atlantic states. Back in the 1960s, just to introduce myself, I marched for equal rights. When I moved to Richmond, Virginia, I proudly voted for the first African-American governor ever elected in the United States of America. And I feel like a lonely voice tonight crying in the wilderness. The rank and file police need support, management, and equipment. I don't trust the Department of Justice these days, so I don't trust their report. I do believe in due process. And I did trust and do trust the 2,500 people with whom I proudly marched on Saturday's Sea of Blue. And thank you, Matt, for showing up with your constituents.
Please. next. Tell us your name and where you live.
Hi, Matt.
Hi.
So I'm Eva Barrett, and I'm one of the people that our officers gracefully escorted out of City Hall when I interrupted your meeting. First, this is a listening tour, and everything that these people are saying is personal, and none of this is safe. Second, I'd like to point out that the citizens of Cleveland are echoing the very demands we discussed on December 11th, 2014 at the first #Cleveland Demands negotiation meeting. At this meeting, you said that you do not have the ability to take sides because of your position as safety chair. On Saturday, December 2nd, you took a side when you showed up at the Sea of Blue rally in full blue regalia and did not talk to any of the counter-rally protesters. So, second, I'd like to talk about a conversation I had with my mentor. He recently had a conversation with a former officer from South Carolina, and when asked about the Cleveland Police Department, this officer said that he had never witnessed a police department that exhibited such extreme hubris and cockiness among its officers. So we are not just dealing with a racially charged crimes against our community. We are dealing with a community of people that believes that it is above the law. So I feel uncomfortable when the person that not just the person, but the people that I'm supposed to be paying taxes towards show up at a Sea of Blue rally that does not take into account that there's a reason that we are interrupting council meetings. There's a reason that we are going into the streets and disrupting things. Because what are we supposed to do when people who look like me are being killed in the street every day? To be perfectly honest, I know that there are good police officers, but like many of the people said, that should be a default anyway. Last year, my best friend was a victim of sexual assault, and when we called a police officer and I showed him the picture of the person who did this, that man was never arrested, and he was never arrested after this officer said, "I know this man." So how am I supposed to feel comfortable trusting my police? And how am I supposed to feel comfortable trusting you when I am being escorted out of City Hall for exercising my right to protest? I don't understand, and I would like that for City Council to take a little more responsibility for the people that they actually do have the power to make legislation for to reform. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ian Heisey. I'm a resident of Ohio City in Councilman Simperman's ward. And Councilman Zone, I want to thank you for initiating this hearing. I was there at the council meeting where you first announced the listening tour, and I wasn't at that later meeting after council, but I was there to hear you say you're going to listen to the protests and you're going to extend the evening to have that listening session. So thank you for your leadership on that. I have some things to share and some recommendations, but I wanted to, in thinking about this listening tour, this listening session tonight, I thought of a quote by Dr. King, and I actually printed it out. This is in Dr. King's words. People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. And I'm thinking of, I think it's Kareem who spoke earlier about people not knowing each other, the police not seeing someone on the street as their neighbor or as their family member. And so we're hearing a lot of mistrust and division and a lack of relationship, a lack of peace. So before I say a few things about recommendations, in the spirit of Dr. King's quote and in light of the tone of our city right now, I'm going to ask people to step out of the comfort zone for a quick second. I attend St. Paul's United Church of Christ on 45th and Franklin. Something we do every Sunday is a simple passing of the peace. So if I could take my time, 30 seconds of my time that's allotted, to encourage us all to turn to someone you don't know and just simply say your name. And that would be for the council members as well. So can we take 30 seconds and just meet someone we haven't met yet tonight?
Christmas. Little sweethearts. Crazy. All right. Yeah, there we go. Yes, good morning. So, Ian, I'm going to ask you to bring the audience back together.
So if we could gather back for Reverend Doug's sermon, for the rest of the evening.
Okay.
I want to respect everyone's time.
Sure.
So we can,
Hold on one second. I want to ask Pastor Max Rodas to come up and just make an announcement. Pastor?
Let me just say something in Spanish. I was in a restaurant and I saw Juan Molina Crespo from the Hispanic Alliance, and he always says, just a suggestion. But we have Father Reedy here, and we have other folks that speak Spanish, so I'm going to say something in Spanish. Para ustedes, los que solamente hablan español, ustedes saben lo que está sucediendo aquí, ¿no? Esta es una conversación sobre todo lo que ha pasado con la policía y con los abusos que han sucedido. Y ustedes como ciudadanos tienen la posibilidad de hacer comentarios. Si ustedes quieren hacerlo en español, por favor háganlo. Porque algunos de nosotros, aquí hay varios de nosotros, está Shakira también, que podemos traducir, ¿no es cierto? So if you are Spanish speaking, which doesn't make sense now, please say it in Spanish. If you speak the language of heaven, right?
I do, and I was reluctant. I want to introduce one of our colleagues in public service. County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell's here, and she's listening intently. So, County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell, thank you for being here. Where? Judge Groves is here? Where is that? Oh, there she is. She's hiding in the back. Judge Emanuela Groves, one of our great judges on the Cleveland Municipal Court bench. Ian, please. I do want to remind people it is 10 to 8. We're going to try to end, fairly soon, but we don't want to limit people from speaking. So if everyone can kind of be concise, 3 to 4 minutes. Ian, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll try to be as brief as I can. I work at Bel Air Curitas Development Corporation in Ward 16, where I coordinate a community mediation program. And we get a lot of quality of life disputes, a lot of neighbor conflict, just things that can easily escalate around noise and problem neighbors, property threats, trespassing. And we get some referrals from the police to say we need some help on this situation. And so when I talk to both sides in a situation to try to see if they're willing to talk to each other in a mediation to sort it out in the community and not always rely on the police, what I hear is everyone wants respect. And that's the bottom line on all sides. And from what I hear this evening and in recent weeks, I hear the protesters saying that they want respect, respect for the stories of discrimination that have happened and the rush to judgment that happens, to respect that's a reality, and to respect that some people don't feel safe before the police are called or after the police are called, if you live in a certain zip code. And so I hear this call, don't rush to judgment. Likewise, I hear from our police forces saying, please don't rush to judgment. Don't think because I wear this uniform that I treat someone differently or that I'm racist. And, we have officers, I think, saying, please respect the fact that I'm putting my life on the line every day, coming into some very difficult, dangerous neighborhoods and basically facing life-threatening situations every day, as residents are too. I'm hoping that we as a community can get beyond the rhetoric of which rally is being attended and which side you stand on. We are one community, and we really need to see that our common interest is working together. The police need the residents, and the residents do need the police, certainly. I think it's a time for not just the police to reassess and look in the mirror, and I think things definitely need to change. But I also think we as a community have some looking in the mirror to do as well, and looking at the fact that do we have a culture where violence entertains us? A culture where we're awash in guns. Mm-hmm. In a conceal and carry state, they're everywhere. And we've had, and this is from a California State University study, by the time a child is at 8th grade, they have seen 8,000 murders on television. By the time they graduate from high school, 200,000 acts of violence they've seen. They have seen on television. It's not about blaming the media. It's just that our culture, we all have some looking to do about how our culture celebrates violence. And also, someone mentioned, what can we do for the young people? I would encourage us all to think about what we can do to maybe have a young child or a young person job shadow at our company, or maybe we can mentor at the local school. What can we do to really offer an alternative? And there are options out there. And, you know, I took some youth on a career exposure tour to Metro Hospital last summer. And I was asking one of the young guys, like, where would he like to go? What would he like to check out to see some possible jobs? He said, you know, anywhere but home. I'll go anywhere in the neighborhood, but don't want to be at home. So we have a lot of difficult situations in the home life, too, for a lot of our young people. And so my recommendation for the committee is to look closely at what's happened in Cincinnati with their consent decree. And I'll echo what I think Linda said earlier and Christina, that the people need to be involved in that process. It's not just from the federal government and City Hall. The people have to have a say in that process. And someone, I think Linda, again, asked about resources for the Civilian Review Board. And in Cincinnati, they do have a director and they have staff. So that's something that I think we should really look at. And they look at all these issues around discharge of firearms, death in custody, improper search, improper use of force. So we really need to build on what's happened in Cincinnati, I think, and have citizen involvement in the review board process. And I would encourage also the committee to recommend that a youth delegate be on that civilian review board to hear from our young people's perspective as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So we have 7 more speakers. If we all could do maybe 3 to 4 minutes, I think we can end within the next half hour, please.
My name is Bernadette Rowland. I was born and raised in Cleveland until about 15 years ago. I moved to Olmsted Falls. Never had any dealings with the police until 3.5 years ago when the Cleveland police shot and killed my son at his home in Parma. That was on 4th of July. If you don't recall the story, one police officer was on duty, one was off duty. They acted above the law. They took matters into their own hands. They crossed the line into Parma. They didn't tell Parma they were coming in. They waited for my son at his house and didn't give him his due process rights, didn't do anything but were trying to rough him up, trying to get something from him, and ended up shooting and killing him right at his doorstep. He has 2 children that he left behind, and still to this day, 3.5 years later, the police officers have not been disciplined. There's an 1,100-page report that was done by Internal Affairs that one of the officers, they recommended that one of them get terminated, and still nothing has happened. Yet you guys say you're listening, you say you want to do something. I've written numerous letters to the mayor, to Flask, to McGrath, and nobody wants to do anything. Nobody wants to listen until 3 or 4 or 5 more lives get taken. And now we're here today wanting to see what we could do. What happened, what's been happening in these 3.5 years? How come nothing's been done? Those police officers, like I said, there's no discipline. That means they got away with murder. They murdered my son. There was no precedent. The rest of them just continued to act like that and just do what they wanted to do. If those 2 didn't get in trouble, then why would anybody else get in trouble? They didn't get indicted. Nothing happened to them. I'm thankful that the Department of Justice is here, and I hope that's not true what I'm hearing, that they're not going to do anything and that it doesn't mean anything. I hope this isn't a dog and pony show, as the first woman said. I hope something really happens. Something needs to be done. And I will come here and I will come to every one of these as much as I can until I do get justice for my son, because those officers don't deserve to be police officers. They don't deserve to have a badge, and they're not here to protect and serve. They're here to take that badge and act like there's somebody above the law, and they want to do something that they're not entitled to do. So I'm just here to say that you'll keep seeing me until I see something get done.
Thank you. Sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gail Johnson, and I live in Ward 15, and I didn't plan on getting up here. In fact, I swore I wasn't going to. And I feel maybe a little stupid, but I'm a little disappointed in tonight. I was hoping, I don't believe you can live in Cleveland and in Ward 15 and Detroit Shoreway and not know there's a problem. I think that's why we're all here, because we know there's a problem. I was hoping, against all odds, that this was going to be people with suggestions on what are we going to do. Is it more training? Do we need more money? Who do we need to speak to? What do we need to do to make change? But I'll give you a quick example. In our block club, we've been very, very concerned about all the gunfire. And we saw, a dead body coming out of one of the apartments. So we contacted our community involvement person and asked that we have the police at our next block club so we could discuss this and what we could do as residents. And we were told by the two officers that they didn't know anything about gunshots in our neighborhood, and they didn't know nothing about nobody. And we just laughed. We laughed, and we were kind of wanting, well, goodbye, so we could talk. And I was able to talk to the new commander at another type of meeting, and I asked him, and he said, community involvement police aren't part of roll call, so they don't know what's happened in the neighborhood. And I was, pardon my English, but that's kind of back ass. Shouldn't community involvement police be the first to know what happened in their neighborhood the night before or the day before? So I want to put my 2 cents in for a substation. I know an apartment owner in our neighborhood across the street from me even offered at a meeting an apartment. He'd supply electricity, he'd supply all the cost, and all the police had to do was hang out there. And it didn't happen. And I'm sure there's reasons, insurance and all that. But, folks, can I see hands raised? How many of you belong actively to your block club? There's not enough of you. They don't do anything because they don't have enough people.
Okay. Hey, Gail, on the mic, wrap it up.
We have 4 people here in our block club.
Right.
We cleaned up apartments. We got rid of trash. 4 of us. So don't tell me they don't do anything because you're not there to motivate them. So join your block clubs. Let them help you figure out what we can do to make some changes.
Gail, stay right there for 1 minute. What I'm most proud of this woman is she's a block club leader, but when I became the councilman, there were only 6 in this community. Today we have over 30. There's so much activism going on, and you were right on that it really is, it has to start with the community. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for what you do. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to smile at y'all like y'all smile at me when I'm talking to you and telling you what's wrong and what's going on with me, and then I'm going to get serious. And I'm going to tell you that I have been abused, fraud has been committed against me, and people have been told to do this. Look the other way when I'm talking about what has happened to me. But I'm here tonight to tell you that shutting down businesses using police force, fire departments, housing code violations is a form of abuse, and it's being practiced in our city. I told you before it started happening to me, and nothing was done when I complained and made requests from the law department for the situation that was going on at my properties. I never received those documents. I asked for public records many times. None of it has been done. My address, and I'm going to give it to you, 11239 Superior, was fraudulently removed from my possession, fraudulently taxed, fraudulently given over the top utility bills, water bills, and light bills. Okay? If I didn't owe $7,500, I still didn't owe $2,700, and they removed $5,000 because I complained. If I didn't owe $7,500, I didn't owe $5,000, and I certainly didn't owe $15,000 in Cleveland public power bills. I didn't owe taxes that were put onto my building that I was paying, and they refused to pay me. When I sent for the hearings, everybody looked the other way because somebody said that it wasn't mine. I found out that the man that owned the properties was my parent late in life. I didn't know, but he gave those properties to me. He gave a liquor permit, one of the first 5 ever issued to an African American in this county. One of the oldest, stayed in the same family for over 50 years. It was taken, removed. Why is it that those liquor permits that belong to us are taken from us, and every time you find a new one being issued, it's to a policeman or a fireman? What's going on in this city? I said I wasn't going to say anything because I tried to go through the right procedures. I've been writing letters, and I've been talking to people, and I've been really quiet about it. But what I have to say tonight is I'm coming for any of you that went and participated in this. I'm coming for you, brothers and sisters, and anybody else that doesn't know which one they are. I'm coming for you. So y'all better lawyer up. This has been a travesty. I've stood for everyone else and helped everyone else, and now it's time for me to help myself. I'm going to be the ultimate advocate for me. You stole my life. You stole my business. Millions of dollars could have been earned by my business and the things that I've been trying to do. And I talked to the right people, and I did all of the right things. I sat there and I said, I'm going to let the law handle this. Well, they handled me. The law handled me for sure. They mishandled me. And then there are some of you even sitting right up there, that had the nerve, audacity, and that's another thing. I started a foundation called the Audacity of Hope Foundation way back in 2008 to help people like me. And it's been working. It's national recognition time. But this is the thing. Somebody said, she needs to stop telling that story because people are tired of hearing it. And shit is not true anyway. Well, you know what? You can do something for me. And I'm not going to even say what it is because I'm too polite to do that. But I'll bend over while you do it. Now, you stole my life, caused me financial ruin, or so you thought you were going to be able to do that. But I'm not going to sit down and take it. I'm still standing here, y'all. And I'm still going to keep standing. And until everything, and I've waited for you to put it back and straighten it out, but it hasn't happened. And I'm tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm tired of being abused. I'm tired of having tickets put on my cars. I'm tired of not being able to park downtown Cleveland. Somebody told me, well, get those personalized plates off your car. It's my car. I can put what I want to on it. It's personalized so you know I'm not hiding from you. I'm here. And you better do something. Maybe you're going to do what you've been doing. But I'm not going to do what I've been doing. I'm not keeping quiet. And every form that comes through, you stole my property. You stole my business. You stole my life. And then you begin to mess with my family members. And that's all with your system. It's the system. It's not just the police department, people. And this kind of abuse is sometimes worse than a murder because then that person's released from their misery. But when you keep torturing someone with financial abuse and fraud, that person's not even safe. I can't live within the city of Cleveland because I can't close my eyes in your boundaries. Who knows what's going to happen to me?
Thank you.
And I understand you only had 4 minutes.
Well, no, you're going for 6 minutes now, but I want to be respectful of the people behind you. If you could wrap it up.
I was respectful for those that came before me, that talked about the same things that you've heard over and over again.
Sure.
But you haven't heard this one before.
Sure. Okay.
And I want you to hear it.
Okay.
And I want to know what you're going to do.
I'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Joanna Lopez, and I'm from Ward 15. I just have 4 suggestions, 3 of which I haven't been raised yet, and one that has that I just wanted to echo for emphasis. Sorry. I I think we need a board that is at least half comprised of diverse residents of the police districts, and that this board should make the final decision on whether new police candidates are hired. I think this would address the issue that, being that we can't have a residency requirement, this would allow people from the community to have input in it, to make sure that the right questions are being asked, being that sometimes these officers are coming from communities that are very different from what we are dealing with here. The second suggestion is that police officers candidates should have to go through a lie detector as part of the hiring process as well. Today I spent my day at a domestic violence seminar, and there was a video of a candidate was trying to be hired as a police officer, and right before the lie detector test, they ask you some questions to prep you for it, so that you can make some confessions so that you don't have to lie about it later. And he admitted to raping 3 women, and he didn't think it was rape, but he did. So with this lie detector process, they were able to not hire him as a police officer, and I'm not sure if that is being implemented in Cleveland, but I think it should be, because I don't think it's a matter of people putting on the uniform and then deciding to do bad or to abuse the power. I think these things could be avoided. These people have these tendencies already and use this uniform as a means to do those things. Okay. And then the third suggestion is that police officers candidates also need to go through a psychological screening or assessment. We do this for juveniles when we want to bind them over to adult court. We do this to find out if defendants are competent and that sort of thing. Well, we're giving these people power, they're armed, and there's so many good ones, but at the same time, the ones that are bad ruin it for everybody else. Our lives are in their control, and by this, and I know it costs money, and I know that's a big issue. All these things that I'm suggesting probably cost money. But if we have the money to pay for the legal settlements afterwards, I think we can do some things in the front end that both save lives and save money. And then the fourth one is just echoing the substations. We need police to feel like they're part of the community, to know the people, and not feel like they're in combat. They need to feel integrated, and to do that, I think the substations would help. Thank you. Ms.
Lopez, thank you for coming with some real suggestions. I appreciate that. Thank you. We have 3 more speakers, so please state your name and where do you live?
Hi, I'm Andrew Zoliak. I live here in Ward 15. I've been a resident for about 2 years, and I live really nearby the CPPA. And in my 2 years there, I've seen, cars parked in a driveway to my building in such a way that it's really clear they don't want us pulling through that entrance. I've tried to pull in a couple of times, and people have looked at me like I'm the silly one trying to pull into the entrance to my building. I've encountered a highly intoxicated individual urinating on my apartment building, yelled at him, and he proceeded to tell me, a guy's got to go somewhere. And I've also even seen fireworks a couple of times, which, in spite of the fact that the state of Ohio, during the most recent legislative session, tried to legalize consumer-grade fireworks, they're not legal yet, but I've certainly seen them go off behind the CPPA building, sometimes even late into the evening. I have no doubt that there are good cops in the city, and I would hope that the majority of them are good cops. But when we have things like this, when there are officers or guests of officers who can't respect the law, or neighbors in downtime and off time when they're not working, why should anyone expect them to respect neighbors, citizens, and the law when they're on duty?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Jason Williams, and I live, in Ward 15. I live right up the street, actually. So, a couple of things. One is the young lady, Ms. Lopez, mentioned one of the things that I thought was very, very important. Something like a vetting process for some of these cops, and it needs to be a vetting process from the community, from the people that live here, not other law enforcement officials, because, again, if you're really truly here to protect and serve, the people that you're serving need to be the ones that say whether or not we trust you or feel like you're going to do your job. the other thing is that, I hear a lot of people saying there's good cops and there's bad cops, and I'm just here to say that silence is acceptance. So if there are quote unquote good cops, why are they so quiet? Because that's just the point. It's like you can't be a good cop if you know things are going wrong and you're not saying anything. So miss me with the good cop. There's no good cops that aren't opening their mouths. So those are just the major things that I wanted to say, but I haven't really had many run-ins with the police that were of any, that were any good. I mean, I've gotten pulled over for no reason and things of that nature, but I just want to say, there are conversations that are going to happen when we leave here between the people up here, and all I'm saying is that you all know what's going on. This whole idea of not really knowing what's happening or not really being, you know what's going on. Just like when we leave here, the people that know each other are going to have conversations that they're not having right now, and they're going to say things that they wouldn't say on this mic. And my thing is, you know what's happening. So if you're sitting there and you're not doing something about it, you are the problem. So that's it.
Good evening, Councilman. I'm Angela Lauder. I live in your ward. I'm on West Flushing Avenue. I've been living there for 20 years. There's much to learn from the many diverse voices that we have heard in this evening's session. And I truly appreciate hearing all those voices. And I thank you for holding this session so we could hear all those voices. We are all part of one community, but we have many different experiences, and that all needs to come forward. I have just a few recommendations. First, many of us in our work, we're familiar with CQI, quality assurance processes. That needs to be in place for the police force, and it needs to be transparent, and everyone needs to be held accountable. So that's the first recommendation. The second one is we do need the community policing. It cannot be us and them. We are all part of the same community, and we need to work together. Third, I think there's already been action on this. I believe there's national consultants coming in, and the police force is bringing in on how to work better with youth and understand that their brains do not work like us. They're not fully developed yet, and they can't be expected to understand everything or respond in the same way as adults. That needs to happen, and I believe that the police force has also given the offer for other police forces in the county to come forward, and we need that. We definitely need that. You can't expect a 12-year-old to understand how to respond. The police need to understand that. Fourth, I believe that, like as in Wisconsin and other states, there needs to be an independent review board for any shootings. We cannot expect that this community and with everyone's connections that can be reviewed fairly. There needs to be an independent review board, and I think that needs to happen throughout the state of Ohio. Finally, mental health issues. There are many, many people and families dealing with mental health issues in this community, and I think that we should look to San Antonio, that has been nationally recognized for their work with the healthcare system, the police force, other government officials all coming together. They have a system that's working much better. And on that, though, I do have to share a personal note. As you can tell, see, I am a Caucasian woman. I have a fair amount of education. I'm relatively articulate. Have access to healthcare resources for my African American son, who has mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder. What I need to share with you is that over the course of probably the last 3 years. I can't tell you how many times I've called police to help us deal with some issues related to PTSD and other mental health issues. And I want to say thank you. When I did this the last time I had to call, I wish there was another avenue for those times when I had to call, but there wasn't. The police have responded. They have responded quickly. They have listened to me, and they have assisted in the situation without having any violence. They've de-escalated the situation, and that's the experience that I would like to have for all of you. Not just in my family, where I was able to talk to them and they could understand, but I would like to see that happen for everyone in the community. And I believe that looking to San Antonio, we could have that experience.
Ms. Fowler, after please, I want you to speak with Councilman Sippman. People who contact information with John James. We're going to continue to pursue this issue, and I appreciate it.
But I want to make sure it's on record. I know many of you have not had that experience, but you've had positive experiences, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much. If you just indulge me for just a couple minutes, I want to ask Councilwoman Cleveland to come up and just announce where our next meeting is going to be. It's going to be January 14th. She's going to give you the information. And then after that, I'm going to ask Pastor Father Rob to come up here and give us a closing blessing. Councilwoman Cleveland, you are invited to come home with Mr. Nick for that.
Again, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for your time and your patience and your thoughtful comments. They really do, they're very important to helping us in what we're going to have to do in the upcoming months and weeks and maybe years to come. Our next listening tour meeting will be in Ward 5 in the North Broadway neighborhood at St. Elizabeth Baptist Church, formerly known as St. Hyacinth. It's at 6113 Francis Avenue. That will be on Wednesday, January 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. So I know we'll see some of you who are here tonight who've been at the other meetings. We'll see you there. But again, we look forward to getting responses and feedback from people from all parts of our community. Again, thank you very much. That's Elizabeth Baptist Church, 6113 Francis Avenue. In North Broadway, Slavic Village. The date is Wednesday, January 14th. Time is 6 to 8, like all of the meetings are. Thank you.
I know we're all getting restless. If you would please just pause for a moment, and I ask Father Rob to come up here and give us a final blessing.
If we just pass a moment in silence, thinking of the many victims of violence, of hatred, murders, whether in our community or anywhere else in the world, those that treat them, and just, I'm not going to say a lot of words, just in your own hearts, pray for those victims, and for all those who at this time need our prayers. So we entrust all these prayers and needs to you, who are our Lord and our God, forever and ever. Amen.